So after Missouri experiment entered now the new experiment, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, that will be preceded by the Peace Agreement of 2004. And then the legislation, Republic Act 11054, or the organic law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. The flag of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front is green. So if you go by color coding, it's green. So, of course, the slogan then, prior to the approval of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region organic law, this will be the final piece, you see, that will bring about new realities, new relationship in the Bangsamoro or Southern Philippines. But in the interim, suddenly we were surprised that several so-called terrorist acts occurred in the Southern Philippines and worldwide. The Marawi siege, but of course before that the Zamboanga siege, the bombing in Sulu, the suicide bombing also, and the series of bombings in the Southern Philippines. So many now put question whether the green flag, which is now the banner of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and the banner of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, will be able to sustain that peace that is committed to the Southern Philippines. Because there's another flag that is contesting. This is another flag, another color rather contesting the green color, and that will be the black color. And this is now more familiar to many people because this is the flag also of the ISIS, the Islamic State, or the Daesh, the Dawla Islamiyah Hisham, or the Daesh. The Arabic of ISIS is Daesh, that is Islamic State, you see. So, and this is also the black flag, the same black flag, if you are familiar with the same black flag of the Abu Sayyaf group, the same group, the same flag of the Maute, and the same flag also of the Bangsam, DBI, Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters. So all these groups now that are believed to be in the periphery, they are not in the mainstream, rather in the margin, but nevertheless cannot be discounted, are all waving the red flag. So people question whether that will be a similar situation during the time of red flag, that you have also the green flag on the side of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Are we not repeating the same reality, same situation, wherein in the midst of the green flag, you have now in the margin, in the periphery, all black flag. And the biggest problem here, I suppose, is that do we believe in our own propaganda that after the completion of this Marawi siege, we write finish to the whole narrative of the terrorists? So the answer, of course, is no. The ISIS is very much alive, notwithstanding that the Maute brothers are no longer are dead, you see. Do we write finish also to the Abu Sayyaf groups now that Janjalani is also part and parcel of the casualties of war in Marawi? We know that the answer is no, because ASG is active. As a matter of fact, the series of bombing in Hulo, and now you have one division in the island of Sulu, that black flag is very much alive. Yeah, it is still in the margin. It's not in the mainstream. The question whether that will be the thing. So that's why the title of the book, that is coming back, The Black Flag Rising. So many people ask me, why not put simply a question mark after the title? But I suppose we can put a question mark in the title for the simple reason that it is still becoming, still in the state of, in the process of becoming. It is in the process, you see. However, the background is green. It's coming from the green. So that is very symbolic. That's why I chose that. It's symbolic, and there's a ray there. So that is the whole background, say, for example, of the title. Why I chose the title? Yes. Somebody would like to talk? Okay. Will I continue? Are you okay? Okay. So these are all symbolic now. So the cover is symbolic, but I would like to present at least so that there will be a continuing listening to the narratives, not only the narratives of the red, not only the narratives of the green, not only the narratives of the Philippine flag, which is the state, but also the narratives, for example, of people now in the periphery. And they're very important because they can throw a monkey wrench in the whole equation and we do not know. So this is very important. So black flag rising. Okay. I put also a very symbolic dedication, you see, to the book. I put a page dedication. The dedication, it just inspired me that I will dedicate this particular work to the 7 martyrs, missionary martyrs in the southern Philippines. Uh, Allegedly, by, of course, by violent religious extremism. Let me put it up. The first martyr will be the oblate priest Nelson Abellana, who would like to have a democracy in the Bangsamoro, and he worked for clean election, and he will be the casualty of the clean election. The bus full of volunteers to watch election was ambushed somewhere in Tambunan, in Talayan, in 1971. So he will be the number one in the dedication to root, see the book, in that list of people who have died, casualties. I would like to include also the lay people, but I don't have the list of lay people who died as martyrs also with the missionaries. The second will be more popular and more known will be the Bishop of Pulo, the first bishop in the Philippines who was murdered, killed in front of the cathedral in 1997. So that will be a very prominent one, also belonging to the Oblates of Mary Immaculate. So in 1997, he was assassinated or he was murdered in front of the cathedral. After the bishop, I will rearrange this, will be Father, if I actually Salvatore Carcega, Carceda, the Pini, P-I-M-E priest, who was also murdered in Zamboanga in 1992, much earlier than Benjamin de Jesus. Again, the work of Carceda will be in the interreligious dialogue, the Silsila based in Zamboanga, the Silsila Center. So he was the collaborator of Father Sebastiano, but the one that was killed and murdered will be Father Calzada in 1992. Then the other one will be very important, will be Ruel Gallardo, and this will be strictly with the black flag, with the ISIS, the Abu Sayyaf. Remember that in 2002, the teachers of Red School in Basilan, they were all kidnapped by the Abu Sayyaf. And included in this kidnapping will be the director of the school, Father Gallardo, Ruel Gallardo, a very young Clarisian priest, and he was also killed. So the fourth victim will be, of course, Father Jesus Roda, Reynaldo Roda, who was murdered also in that island of Tabawan in the province of Tawi-Tawi. He was murdered in 1997. I'm not reading. I'm reading, so everything is what we go. Okay. Then the next one will be, of course, did I mention the Father Benjamin Inocencio, who was also killed, murdered behind the cathedral. That will be into the year 2000. And the last one will be Father Rufus Haley, Society of St. Columban, and that will be the Columban priest who was murdered in Malabang. That will be Lanao del Sur. So these are the 7 victims of violent extremists. And these are missionaries who dedicated their lives to the poor, dedicated their lives to the good news, dedicated their lives to build bridges of friendship between Muslim and Islam, and yet shed their blood for that cause. So in a way, that will be symbolic because dedicating the book to the 7 martyrs in the southern Philippines, martyrs of violent religious extremism. The table of contents will be very, very interesting. There are 7 chapters. So I suppose I said, many of the readers in the southern Philippines will not be familiar with Islam. So in order to be able to come up with a real contextualization of the violent religious extremism, we have to come up with a general presentation so that at least people will see that this is not Islam, but this will be just a thread in the whole Islam. Because now many people immediately see that Islam will be the terrorists, you see, because they associate Islam with Abu Sayyaf, with ISIS, with Daesh, with the DIFF, and they are the faces of Islam for many people or many Christians. So perhaps I told myself that I should come up with a general presentation of Islam and the communities of Islam. And what are these communities of Islam so that people will be able to situate the violent religious extremism within that particular understanding of what Islam is, what are the communities of Islam. So this will be what we call a good grounding. So any people who will be interested in violent extremism, by way of discovering violent extremism, they go through the community of Islam. So that they will be familiar more or less with that whole communities of Islam. It's still plural, not one. Many people, of course, in Arabic, it is singular, ummah, no? The community of the Prophet. But in English, we can translate it, of course, the community of the Prophet is one. But we know that there are several branches of this community of the Prophet. We have the Sunni tradition, which is the majority, 90% of the Muslim worldwide will belong to the Sunni. And then you have the 10% belonging to the Shiite tradition that can be found mainly in Iran and Iraq. So, and then there are other smaller groups within that community, Ummah of the Prophet. But I use the English word communities of Islam. So that is very good introduction to good grounding to be able to understand that thread of Islam. The matrix, of course, will be the Ummah of the Prophet. Okay, it is from that matrix that will emerge this black flag, but it is a streak. It is not the community. It's a streak. It's a ray. It's a simple ray in that whole matrix that will emerge from Islam. The second chapter is interesting because it is what we call the struggle for purity. It's a phenomenon today, worldwide phenomenon, and phenomenon among religious circles of what we call, there is what we call a streak in the religious way of going back. You see, many religious congregations in the Catholic Church, they also go back, you see. The call of Vatican II will be going back, yes, taking the dynamism of the past and trying to aggiornamento, bring it to the present and modernize it. But here, the movement for the purity of religion is simply going back. And many people, that's why this going back to the purity of religion is not a monopoly of Islam. That's why you see priests still saying Mass in the Tridentine ritual or Latin, that is a 1500. This is what we call simply going back. So this is no different from the ISIS, from the Daesh, you see. That will just go back to the Medinan period, you see. And the poor Rashidun Caliph, you see, and will not accept any changes And any changes will be considered as a bid'ah in Arabic or innovations. So this is a thirst for purity. I suppose in many religious congregations, it would be going back to the age of your founders, Joseph, to the age of your founders, and then see what he did and imitating what he did. And that's it. You see, your following of Jesus Christ is just simply repeating what he did. But that will be in the 18th century or the 19th century or in the 16th century or in the question of Islam, that will be in the 7th century. So that is what we call the search for the purity of Islam. But locating this contemporary streak as a movement towards the purity of Islam, referring to going back to the companion, to the time of the Prophet and the companions. That means denying the progress and development when the caliphate moved from Medina to Damascus during the time of the Umayyad. And it is in that movement towards Damascus and Baghdad that Islam reached the zenith of its enlightenment. So many people will be proud, say, for example, of astronomy, medicine, architecture, mathematics, astronomy, coming from this period of the 8th and the 9th century, during the time of the Umayyad and the Baghdad. So they're reaching the zenith of the Enlightenment, while then the Western world will be in the dark period, you see. They don't even know how to spell and they don't know even how to read and write, you see. But the Arabs, during the time of the Umayyad and the Caliphate, you see, they know already medicine because they have translated the Greek work of Galen and then handed it to the Western world. And that will be the beginning of the enlightenment of the Western world. Philosophy of Aristotle and Plato also was translated into Arabic by the Arabs, and then the Arab philosopher like Avicenna Averroes, and then and through the Arabs migrated to the Western world, and the beginning also of the enlightenment of the Western world sometime in the 12th century. But Islam reached the zenith of its enlightenment during the time of the Umayyad and the Caliphate. But this search for purity will be denying all this development. So that means no movement, no bid'ah, no innovation is going back to Medina, and that will be the desert. So, there is a big danger about the desert. I show you. This is now up. Okay. I was in Egypt for 2 years. Of course, I ventured into the desert also. And they keep telling me there are two kinds of Islam. And this is only among people's, the people talk, the intellectuals discussing, you see. The Islam of the desert and the Islam of the river, you see. And there'll be a big difference, you see. Geography matters, you see. I suppose Islam in Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Islam in Maguindanao, Islam in Marawi, because geography matters. The Islam of the desert will be rather rigorous because of the desert situation. And Medina will be desert. Saudi Arabia will be desert. So it is the rigorous trick because that will be struggle against nature. Hence, it will be more close, you see. The Islam of the desert will be characterized by the culture of the Nile River, and that will be Egypt. It will be characterized by the Tigris and Euphrates River, that will be Iraq and moving towards Iran, and the coastal also. This will be more open because there will be more interactions. And when you look for what we call the purity of Islam, they refer only to the Islam of the desert, but that will be an excursus. That's not in the book. But anyway, just to give you their characteristic of what we call the struggle for purity, which is the ideology behind this thread, this streak, you see, that will lead to the emergence of the Islamic fundamentalism. The chapter 4 is not coming from me, but a professor of Islam, Dr. Mansour Limba, professor at the Ateneo de Davao University. And he tried to come up with the hermeneutics of violent extremism. So I told myself that he'll be the best one to come up with the understanding of the violent extremism. So it is what we call an attempt to understand this phenomenon. A Muslim himself will try to understand and locate the interpretation of this violent extremism in Islam. The chapter 5 will be also by a Muslim, the former commissioner of the National Commission for Muslim Filipinos, on the context and nature of Muslim religious formation in the Philippines. That will be by Commissioner Yusuf Morales. And chapter 6 will be what common people will know because they appear in papers and in newspapers. This will be the phenomenon of the Abu Sayyaf groups and their persistence even after the Marawi siege. And this will be coming out with all the different groups that will be associated with Abu Sayyaf group. So that will be an inventory of all these extremist groups in the southern Philippines and where they belong to. So it's good also going to chapter 6 to be able to locate the different groups in your places and then where they appear ideologically in that particular spectrum, political spectrum. And chapter 7 will be coming from a military standpoint, understanding national security. And I've asked former General Ernesto Aradanas, who was with us in Cotabato, but also in the National Defense College of the Philippines, teaching master's degree in national security. And his article, his chapter will be on the impact of the ISIS, of the Islamic State, ideology in our national security. And then, of course, I added we conducted 2 workshops on violent religious extremism in Manila at SEDA, and we invited experts for a conference to really grapple on the issue of religious extremism. And we put in the appendix, there are 2 appendices, the result of the workshop and the recommendations of the workshop and the participants of the workshop. This will be appendix 1 and appendix 2. And then at the end, I did a sort of glossary of terms so that we'll be able to know more or less the different terminology used in the book. So before and after, I wrote a prologue and I wrote also an epilogue so that if you have no time to read the 7 chapters, you can read only the prologue and the epilogue and then try to imagine the content of the 7 chapters. So I'm just joking, but more or less that will be the complete work, you see, this Black Flag Rising. What we call this, perhaps the premise is that the red flag was not able to deliver that desire, that aspiration of the Bangsamoro, both in terms of development of the southern Philippines, but at the same time in terms of self-determination, or put it within the context of the battle cry of Bangsa, Hula, Homeland, and Agama. That's why in all my talks, I used to give this joke that they keep on shouting, hula, hula, homeland. Until now, the simple farmers don't even have a farm lot and a house lot, you see. You talk about homeland, most farmers, the Bangsamoro farmers, are simply looking for their own farm lot to till, their own farm lot and their own home lot. Similarly, also we speak of Bangsa, but is it a Bangsa for the entire Bangsamoro? So we beware when we use Bangsa, Hula, and Agama. So that is the red flag. So it was not able to deliver fully or to deliver that battle cry of Bangsa, of Hula, and Agama. Nation, homeland, and self-rule. Now under the green flag, so it will be a similar call. I suppose this will be Bangsamoro, that is the identity, the Bangsamoro homeland, and then self-determination that are given now the wherewithal and the powers to exercise that power. They're given, as you know very well, 59 powers, you see. In the old one, they're only in the Constitution, they have only exercised 9 powers, but now in the new law, Republic Act 11054, there are 57 powers in the Bangsamoro Lodge in the Parliament. And in the previous one, they are not given the wherewithal. Now they are given all the wherewithals to the tune of 5% of the total tax collection of the country and total collections of the customs also. And they estimate this amount as 70 billion annually, plus of course the commitment to rehabilitate all the identified MLF camps. And there are 6 of them. That means the government will pour also to the tune of 50 billion, 10 billion annually into development and rehabilitation of the MLF camp. So that the camps will no longer be military, but it will be the main hub of development and economic. So now, this will be the expectation of people. So that's why, oh, they may not be able to deliver in 3 years. Oh my God, 3 years is too short to deliver it with COVID-19. So if they are not able to deliver in the similar vein as the red flag is not able to deliver, so the context of, is there a new flag rising in the horizon? Actually, in one of my talks to the people in Manila, the generals were listening, so they were so fearful of my talk that they invited me to speak to all the generals, you see, especially active and retired at Camp Aguinaldo, about this black flag rising, emerging from the horizon. But the black flag emerging from the horizon is not only from the Philippines or in the Philippines, in the southern Philippines, but the black flag is rising practically worldwide. Nobody is exempted now from that rise of the black flag. Baghdadi is dead, the caliphate is gone, but the IC spirit continues. That's why this book, particularly the workshop, explains why there is traction, why there is following, you see, of this black flag emerging. Till we are able to grapple with the constituency of this black flag, will not be able to solve the whole violent religious extremism. More so that the adherents, the primary people taking the lead in the black flag will be educated, coming from the secular university and young people, you see. So people wonder why, you see, they're not Madaris educated, you see. They are educated in leading universities and polytechnic universities. As you know very well, the head honcho now of the Al-Qaeda is a surgeon by the name of Zawahiri, no? A doctor. Of course, the founder is an engineer, not even an ustad. You see, Al-Qaeda founded by Bin Laden. Bin Laden is a muhandis. Muhandis is the Arabic word for engineer. So what you see now, part and parcel of this emerging black flag in the horizons are engineers, doctors, nurses, teachers, university students, and young people, you see, and not the products of the Madaris, you see. Of course, the masses will be coming from the Madaris, but the ideology, the leading organ will be coming from the universities. And hopefully by this work, we'll be able to grapple with this. That is the hope. So anyway, I would like to conclude there. Ram, so some people would like to have a question. Go ahead. This is only what we call a preview. Wow, preview. Preview is like a launching already.
At ilang pages yan po?
Mga 190 to 200 pages if you include some picture. As of now, it's 189. So, and then I add the prologue of 4 pages. So it will be 193 or 194 pages. And some, I suppose, yeah, altogether. And if we add pictures, sabi ko nga, maganda mag-picture. We will sit together. If you can add a 10 page of picture, we can say 200 will be good. Would that be too much?
Premier na?
Yes.
I think okay lang naman yung 200 pages, Ram.
Okay. Okay.
Support lang natin.
Okay, 200 pages. Okay, that's good. Okay. So the work is 99%, actually 99.5% completed, except for the pictures. The epilogue was given 3 days ago. So, and then of course there will be some error, magkakadikit na letters. The final edit will be done also. And the spelling. Otherwise, it's already complete. Kaya nakakahinga na nga ako, nakakahinga na finally. No? I have no more stress and tension. You see, I've been trying to do that. You see, this is a long delay. Hindi na ako productive, matanda na, and I have a lot of things to do. I'm still teaching. But actually, huwag niyo ako papaniwalaan because there's another volumes there. The life of this Orlando Quevedo that I don't like to begin it because I don't know, he has no money to pay anyway. So that's the question. You see, I'll ask him first whether he's willing to pay for all those people, you see, those readers and the publication. I don't know. So that's why I've not begun. I'm going to begin. Yes. Any question?
Sir Ben, you want to say something?
Ito mga audience.
Wala.
Ito mga audience. Meron kayong tanong? Do you have any
Nana.
No question? I suppose you don't know much about extremism, just a suicide bomber or anything like that. Okay. Yes.
Okay na. So, final review na lang talaga.
Final review na. Attorney Marata, I have one Attorney Marata. He wants to say something, one of my students, faithful student. Attorney Marata, you still around? Kasi to say, do you want to say something, Attorney
Yes, Father.
Yes.
First of all, Father, I would like to congratulate you for that book.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Yes po, sige. Ano pa ho? Wala na kayo sasabihin, Attorney?
Early stage of studying Islam.
Okay.
Although this has been my passion to understand Mindanao. But now that I'm a lawyer,
Okay.
I'm learning more deeply Islam.
Okay.
So I think that's very helpful to me.
Good.
Situational, wherein something like you lay down the conditions of various in Islam, Mindanao. That's what I got from your presentation.
Okay.
I'd like to ask something because the title is Black Flag Rising.
Yes.
How do you categorize the previous movements like MNLF and MILF?
Yung red flag ho yun eh. Now,
what is the color? So are they the...
Sabi ho, umakit sa flagpole, binaba na ho. Ngayon nasa flagpole yung red flag. Bakit ibababa rin yun after 3 years? Baka black flag naman po, i-raise, gano'n. Kaya nga emerging in the horizon. We do not know the future of the green flag.
So, Father, can we say that the red flag is now down totally, or it's just an episode of...
The word is episode. That's a good word, an episode. The red flag remains there, and it has still a following, but it's no longer in the driver's seat. So the driver's seat now is the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, you see. So though my good chairman Nur Miswari would like to be in the driving seat in the federal system with this friendship with Duterte, but we do not know how long Duterte will last, whether we were going to have a federalism, whether we're going to have one Mindanao federal. You see, that's a big question mark. So that's why we just say that there is what we call one flag rising, and that is recent. Right there in the flagpole is the green flag, which is the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. And the contestant, the one contesting is the black flag now. Of course, the Philippine government is contesting it also. So it's a struggle between the red flag, or rather the black flag, and the Philippine flag.
Okay, Father. Okay, Father. By the way, Father, when is that coming out?
Inaano na ho namin yung printer, ano? It will come out siguro malapit na. Hopefully, within, before the year ends, okay? So, tapos na ho eh. It's a matter of looking for the printer, okay?
Thank you, Father.
Naka-layout na rin. Everything is there. Okay. Anything else? No more. We will conclude. Okay na? Jackie, would you like our deputy the executive director? Jackie, are you still there? Okay, we will go.
Yes, Father, I'm here, but sorry kasi grabe sunod-sunod ang pasok ng mga bisita.
Okay,
I was interrupted. Sorry po. Okay
Going,
lang.
going,
I'm good.
going 1, going 2, and going 3. Gun. Ay, naku, nakalimutan ko pala i-record. Si-record siguro ni Rama, no?
Recorded naman siya.
Recorded, naka-record.
Recorded, Father.
Recorded. Okay, that's good. Ano ko lang sa YouTube ko. Okay, good. Okay, good. Naka-record.
Salamat po.
Salamat.
Sige.
Salamat,
Thank
Jackie.
you, Father.
God bless. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father.
Bye.
Thank you, Father.
Okay.